Your emergency.
The building downtown just blew.
Come on. The energy supplier has been called to shut off the gas.
Come on, I got it. I'm sorry. Just breathe. Hang out. Breathe, okay?
On a late May morning, the city of Youngstown in Mahoning County, Northeast Ohio, was moving through its ordinary rhythm. High-rise buildings stood tall, people moved along the streets, and no one imagined that tragedy was about to strike. The first call came into the 911 emergency center at 9 in the morning. An anxious voice reported, "There's a natural gas leak right next to the Chase Bank in Youngstown, Ohio." The dispatcher responded calmly, promising to send someone out immediately. For firefighters, calls like this are usually nothing serious. Maybe a car parked outside for too long, or someone left a pilot light on. Typically, these are very basic calls, nothing to worry about. Realty Tower is a 13-story building right in the heart of downtown. The first floor houses the Chase Bank branch, while the south side contains apartments. This is home to many people, with a constant flow of residents and visitors, mostly professionals who work in the downtown area. On May 28th, an office worker was heading up to the 14th floor of a building directly across the street. Suddenly, the alarm system sounded throughout Realty Tower. An automated voice echoed, "Please proceed to the nearest exit and leave the building. Do not use the elevator." Residents began evacuating as the alarm continued its warning. In an office across the street, a team was discussing their next project when it happened. The witness later described feeling an immense power, a force unlike anything they had experienced before. The sound was deafening, and everything shook violently. Looking out the window, they saw a massive rush of dust, debris, and smoke billowing into the sky. Without hesitation, they snapped a photograph and immediately called 911. Another witness heard the explosion from nearby. They ran outside and saw the biggest cloud of dust, debris, and smoke imaginable, engulfing the entire downtown area. A police officer patrolling the area immediately radioed their sergeant, informing them of the explosion and that they were headed toward the scene. Within moments, the emergency lines were flooded with calls. "The Realty building just blew up," one caller shouted. "The building just exploded downtown," another reported. Each dispatcher assured callers that help was on the way. The office worker who first saw the explosion knew they had to act fast. They instructed their team to evacuate their building and the hotel directly across the street. "We need to pull the fire alarm now," they commanded. "There are hundreds of people here, and there could be another explosion." Emergency responders received reports of an explosion at Chase Bank. Police cars converged from every direction. One first responder approaching the scene saw what they thought was smoke filling all of downtown. They initiated what firefighters call a second alarm, which would send additional crews to the scene. "Back up, back up," officers shouted at bystanders gathering near the destruction. No one had ever seen anything like this. The damage was so extensive that the first floor had collapsed into the basement. The basement floor was completely uprooted. It was horrifying. There was a gas leak. Responders could smell it, could hear it hissing. The biggest fear now was a secondary explosion. "Cross the street from me," an officer instructed civilians. There might be a secondary explosion. The front face of the building, the whole first floor, was already blown open. A secondary explosion could be catastrophic. You could hear people yelling, people running everywhere. Shock hit everyone as they tried to comprehend what they were seeing. This was one of the biggest catastrophes these first responders had ever encountered. Immediately, everyone started thinking about casualties. How many people were inside? How many were hurt? The energy supplier had been called to shut off the gas, but with people trapped inside, there was no time to wait. The front wall of the building was completely blown out. Responders could actually see the steel skeleton of the building exposed. The residential side of the apartment structure was cracking, with bricks falling from above. But some residents, including a mother and baby captured on camera, got out with just minutes to spare before the explosion. As firefighters searched for casualties, police blocked off several streets in the area. "You guys gotta get back. You're right in the blast radius. If it goes off again," one officer warned civilians who had ventured too close. But the urgent reality remained. There were still people inside. The immediate problem was the Chase Bank. The bank on the first floor had collapsed into the basement. Firefighters needed to climb down to search for victims. When you're putting people into a building like that, you're continuously reassessing, is this building progressively moving toward collapse? You hold this ladder, one officer instructed another. Officer Hamilton held the ladder steady as his colleague lowered himself down into the wreckage. I got it, you're not going nowhere. I got it, Hamilton assured him. As he held the ladder, it was pretty unsteady. This wasn't a basement floor anymore, it was literally concrete, piles, and rubble. Working with these firefighters, knowing their families, made this a very stressful occurrence. Putting them in harm's way, knowing there was a substantial amount of risk involved, weighed heavily on everyone's mind. The power was still onto that building, there was a gas leak, and now, looking down, firefighters could be seen standing in 3 to 4 feet of water. In the wreckage, all one rescuer could see was the top of a woman's hair. It was covered in dust. He asked if she was able to stand. She told him no. He knew he had only one option to get her out. He would have to put her on his shoulder. They needed to get these people out immediately and try to preserve as much life as possible. The rescue was perilous, with unstable footing and debris everywhere. Grab her, I got her, you're okay, go, I got you. When they brought her to safety, her face was bloody. You could see the lacerations, the cuts all over. Her leg was unstable, wobbling. Just breathe, you're okay. Just breathe, ma'am. Everyone was breathing in this gas now. When the first ambulance arrived, that ambulance became the medical triage center. Another desperate call came into emergency services. I'm calling about the explosion downtown Youngstown. My coworker is in the bathroom. I just want somebody to help her get out. She doesn't have her phone, and she doesn't know if anyone's coming. There was a bathroom that was buried and trapped. A woman was trapped in there waiting for someone to rescue her. Fortunately, she did not sustain any physical injuries that responders could see. At that point, incident commanders didn't have a roster. You could have friends in the building, random workers, anyone. It required a physical search of the entire structure, floor by floor, room by room. 7 people were injured in the explosion. Some had severe lacerations, broken bones, and trauma from the blast. Emergency medical teams worked frantically to stabilize and transport them to nearby hospitals. But tragically, 27-year-old bank employee Akil Drake lost his life in the explosion. His body was discovered and recovered later that night, about 8 or 9 hours after the explosion occurred. One of the first responders reflected solemnly, I have not had the pleasure of meeting the Drake family, but hopefully they're aware that I tried my best to locate their son. The reality hit everyone hard. It could be anybody. We walk in and out of buildings every single day. I walked in and out of that door 100 times in the last month. The incident left deep psychological scars on those who responded. The toughest part is the aftermath and the mental toll it takes on you, one officer admitted. After the ordeal, one first responder said, I just wanted to be with my family. At that point you realize what's important. You realize this is about family. The investigation began immediately. What caused such a devastating explosion? Authorities from multiple agencies converged on the scene to piece together what happened. The initial 911 call about a gas leak suggested the answer, but determining exactly how natural gas accumulated to such dangerous levels would require extensive investigation. Had there been a leak in the underground pipes? Was there a malfunction in the building's gas system? These questions needed answers. Engineers assessed the structural damage to Realty Tower. The 100-year-old building had withstood a century of weather and time, but this explosion had compromised its integrity beyond repair. The blast had been so powerful that it completely destroyed the first floor, collapsing it into the basement and exposing the building's steel skeleton. Cracks had spread through the residential section. Bricks continued to fall periodically from the upper floors. The building was no longer safe for habitation or salvage. After careful evaluation, authorities made the difficult decision. The 100-year-old Realty building would have to be demolished due to damage resulting from the explosion. It was a piece of Youngstown's history, but public safety had to come first. For the residents who called Realty Tower home, the loss was profound. They had evacuated with only what they were wearing, leaving behind their belongings, their memories, their sense of security. Many had lived there for years. Some had raised families in those apartments. Now, it was all gone. The community rallied around those displaced by the explosion. Temporary housing was arranged. Donations of clothing, food, and essentials poured in from across the region. In tragedy, Youngstown showed its strength. The cause of the blast remained under investigation for months. Experts examined gas lines, interviewed witnesses, and analyzed the debris pattern. Natural gas is odorless in its pure form, but utility companies add a distinctive smell precisely to warn people of leaks. Had the warning signs been there? Had they been missed or ignored? One witness reflected on the experience. "I mean, it's a gut punch, but it's Youngstown. We always bounce back, so we'll get there. But it's a rough time right now." The explosion on May 28th became a defining moment for Youngstown. It reminded everyone of the fragility of the structures we trust every day and the courage of first responders who run toward danger when others flee. Officer Hamilton, who held the ladder during those critical rescue moments, would replay that day in his mind countless times. The unsteady footing, the smell of gas, the fear of a secondary explosion, the weight of responsibility for his colleagues' lives. The firefighters who descended into that wreckage, knowing the building could collapse at any moment, demonstrated extraordinary bravery. They searched through water, rubble, and darkness, driven by the hope of finding someone alive. The police officers who evacuated hundreds of people from surrounding buildings, who held back crowds despite their own fear, who coordinated the chaotic scene, all played crucial roles in preventing further loss of life. And Akil Drake, a young man just starting his career, became a painful reminder of how quickly life can change. His family's grief resonated throughout the community. He had simply gone to work that morning, as he had done countless times before. For those who survived with injuries, the road to recovery was long. Physical wounds would heal, but the psychological impact of surviving such a traumatic event would take much longer to process. The Youngstown explosion serves as a critical reminder about infrastructure safety and emergency preparedness. It highlights the importance of regular inspections of gas lines, quick response to leak reports, and the need for evacuation plans in multi-story buildings. Most importantly, it honors the first responders who risk everything to save others. Their actions that day prevented a tragedy from becoming even worse. Their courage under pressure, their willingness to enter a collapsing building despite the danger, their commitment to preserving life, exemplifies the very best of humanity. As Youngstown continues to heal and rebuild, the memory of that May morning remains. A community tested, but not broken. Lives forever changed, but resilience enduring. And a city that will indeed bounce back.